weather here where the humidity has been down to 10% or less in the last month or month and a half. That's why we have to have something, some kind of a greenhouse, however simple it is, to control the humidity. Yes, sir.
Would you increase your chances if you use
questions about hormones? If you're going to use a hormone, use a liquid.
Like Tip and Grow?
Something like that. If you use a powder, odds are it will increase rotting in your scion.
Okay.
That's been my experience. It's been the experience of guys back east that I correspond with, and it's information that I get from the University of California at Davis. You really don't need a hormone, but if you're going to use one, go with the liquid.
A bit more than the gel, even.
Yeah.
John, you showed us those cuttings where the leaves had outrun the roots quite a lot. Do you have to do anything special to those? Will they catch up eventually then? Is that how that works?
As long as you maintain the humidity, the top growth will not suffer, and you'll have time for the roots to develop. I haven't done it with this, but I did it with patangas, Suriname cherries. You can take cuttings, put them in sand, put them in a closed container, and they can sit there for 2 years, and the leaves are still green. They never root, but you can keep them alive and keep the leaves on looking good for at least that long in a proper amount of humidity. So, same thing with this. You can keep this from shedding water, or you can keep it green by keeping the humidity up long enough for those roots to develop. Now, some twigs they're just not going to do. Just not going to happen. Just like some grass are just not going to take. Maybe because you didn't know what you were doing, or because it was a bad piece of sign, or it just didn't feel like it.
You showed that both the small scion and the large would root. Is there any advantage to having a larger one?
No, but this is first-year wood. This wood is only 9 months old.
Wow.
It's the same as this piece and this piece. 9 months old or less. This is not old growth. This is not off a big old tree. This is what grew in since last spring. So, which is some of the better wood to use. Second-year wood, third-year wood works pretty well. But it doesn't really matter. It's just if you happen to have a piece this size, don't be afraid to try it, because it's got the same properties, and there seems to be some indication a little bit thicker wood roots a little better. Seems to have a little more reserve in it or something.
Can you mention some of the other fruits that do well from cuttings, like mulberries and grapes and pomegranates?
I've done pomegranates. I had just a few to play with one time. I've tried mulberries. I've had no success. Supposedly you're supposed to be able to do it. I've not found a secret on mulberries.
How often do you change the air in the bag?
Maybe once a week. Something like that. Particularly if you got it all puffed up. If you got it all flattened out like it is now, it's got like 5 or 10% of the air, and that's you got to deal with it a lot faster, a lot more often.
If you use older wood, will it come to fruit faster, or will it still take approximately the same amount of time to fruit?
Each variety is going to be a little different. Some of them, maybe I should mention this. Some varieties get what they call a break of crop. It grows on the old wood. Most of them get it on the new wood that you haven't seen yet. It's going to grow this year. If you get figs forming on this when you're trying to root it, take them off. It's just energy going to the wrong thing. I've had twigs this big that are well rooted that fruited. I've had some that were bigger than that hadn't fruited yet. So they vary. Seedlings, I've done some seedlings. Some of them fruited in, this one. No, it's not one of these two. Some of them have fruited in the second year. Some of them haven't fruited after year 10. So don't bother with seedlings.
Jon, I had a new fig tree that the figs didn't, before the bad weather set in, so they hadn't ripened. And I finally took them off the other day. I cut them off, but they bled. So I haven't pruned that tree yet, because does that mean that the tree isn't dormant yet?
You have a very unusual year this year. And trust me, I've been fighting this. We had, most of January has been 75 or 80 degrees. I have have trees in my yard that are not yet dormant, they still have leaves. I have some that don't have leaves on them, but the wood is still green. I mean, it's green, not, I don't mean just fresh, I mean, it looks green. And it's not hardened up yet. You can root those, but humidity control is a lot touchier on those. When I'm cutting them now, when I go like this, that stuff sprays everywhere. Because they're close to breaking dormancy. I've got quite a few trees that are already breaking dormancy. They think it's spring because it's been warm for so long. So at this point, all you can do is prune them.
It's not, they're not gonna bleed to death.
No, they won't bleed to death.
Okay, don't need to
But
turn it.
if you need to prune for size control and whatever else, shape and all that, you need to do it because
Now's the time.
it could very well be another week or two, it'll be too late, you'll have leaves all over the thing.
You might want to also talk to them about the break crop carryover from the current year.
Okay, we'll do one quick. Pruning. A few figs have fruit on the old wood. They would get fruit on this wood. And this is 1 year's growth. This whole piece I brought in, 1 year's growth. Most figs come on the new growth. It's going to come from these buds that are on this branch. If your main crop, this tree is a main crop fig, you can prune this thing. You can take all of that off. I left a piece on there about this long with about 2 or 3 buds. 2 or 3 buds, that's all. Because the new growth that's going to come is going to provide my figs. But if you have a tree that has a brava crop, particularly if that's the only crop it gets, then if you prune it, you won't get any crop. So probably the most notorious of the bunch is Desert King. That's a brava only fig, so you have to be very careful about pruning them. Most of the rest of those back there will be main crop. They may have both, but pruning-wise, the Desert King is the one you need to watch out for. Okay, anybody else want to sign on tonight? No? Okay, just keep talking then.
All right, thank you, John.
If you're going to use a rooting medium, something other than the perlite, take your cups. If you get splits in the side, you can reuse them. It doesn't matter. Anybody here old enough to remember when plants came in metal cans? You take a big pair of tin snips and cut them down the side. Okay. If you use a rooting medium that's got organic material and compost and things like that, it tends to stick to the side of the cup. When it's got little tender roots on it, you're trying to get it out of there, guess what?
Breaks the roots.
Breaks the roots off. So I was cutting them like this and I was taping them back together. And when it was time to take it out, I'd peel the tape off. So I was at Leo's the other day and I was telling him about these. He said, so why don't you just stick it inside another one? They're cheap enough, and make sure you got holes in all of them. First inside,
Do you do
outside.
just a single hole or is multiple holes in the bottom?
About 4 holes, at least 1/8 of an inch in diameter. So when they get all broken up, you just cut them up. Show me.
Thank you.
Oh, if you need parafilm for grafting, I brought that tonight. It's $2 a roll. There you go, Lee.